Show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
Hey, welcome today. This is Daniel Martinez. We have a special guest today covering a unique subject that I like learning about. It has to do with real estate, but we have a special guest, Mr. Carl Fischer. Now, where are you from, Carl Fischer? What part of the country are you from? What part of the country you live in?
I basically live in Florida. I grew up in Florida. I went to school in upstate New York at Cornell University, graduated from there, and then went to Kennedy Space Center and Cape Canaveral Air Force Station and launched rockets for almost 20 years. Cut my teeth on the shuttle program, doing the R&D, et cetera, and then part of the launch team.
That's quite a story.
Yeah. Well, and all along I was doing real estate because my mom and dad were in it and their mom and dads were in it as well.
So third generation, that's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. So I kind of want to touch on this subject because a lot of people struggle with this, especially like people that have jobs. So what was it like having a full-time job, especially at the Space Kennedy Station and during real estate? Because a lot of people think they can't do both.
Well, yeah, that's kind of interesting because when I got out of school, one of the things I hated was the fact that I didn't get a summer vacation. You know, they limited me to 2 weeks of vacation. And when I was, growing up with my mom and dad, we would go to the Jersey Shore or some other places. My dad would fly back every now and then, but basically we celebrated summer as a family, almost 3 months in different places. And then when I was young, he would, stop by the post office box, tell me to go in there and get the mail at the first of the month. And I'd pick up a bunch of envelopes with checks in them. And then I would bring them back and fill out the deposit book and put the money in the bank. So I learned that, and I just thought my dad, went to different events with, at school, et cetera. And, but that was my first time education on what a lot of people call mailbox money. I had actually experienced it. So I knew that you could do both of them at the same time. I also knew that you didn't need money. I, fell into it with, owner financing was a lot of ways that people in the real estate world did their deals. So it was pretty simple to work and do real estate. If you think about it, the way I like to hear it was, my dad said, well, you go talk to a tenant, you might spend a half an hour on the paperwork. And then hopefully the next time you have to talk to him is when you renew his lease in a year. So you're basically getting, $1,000 check for 12 months for talking to somebody for an hour. So that was, an education for me and a thought process that was there. And the other thing I found out was when I was in school, I would negotiate the houses for rent, when we would do a group ski trip. Okay. And, if we had myself and 10 others, I would split the price among the other 10 because I did the negotiating, and I'd basically get to go for free because I'd negotiate my price off of the value, and everybody was happy with it. So, you just learn from being in the business, and I guess, hot dog makers learn from their parents, movie stars learn from their parents. So just being around it, I think I learned from it.
Well, I think it's definitely a good education. It's really kind of interesting that you use your negotiation tactics to get free vacations. I think it's once you become real estate and you start using that negotiation bug, you start using it everywhere. And it comes out in different places that you wouldn't expect it. But I think negotiating a free ski trip is definitely up there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was free from the rent. I still had to pay my own lift tickets,
Oh man, I guess you got better with age.
Yeah, right, exactly.
you couldn't get it all for free. No, it's an amazing story. I think it's cool. I hope to have my kids have the same story you do as far as in the real estate world behind me and experiencing that, just because it opens up to a lot of opportunity that not a lot of people get to see, and it's kind of cool to experience that.
Yeah, but let's give them a fair understanding of it too. Yeah, on holidays when a toilet backs up and there's no plumbers to call, you end up going out there. So it's not all mailbox money and as great as everybody says it is. And it for sure isn't, I'll call it passive income that the IRS calls it. But, you do have, I would say, inopportune times where you get demands on yourself. But for the most part, I do think it's a great investment.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a theory going around that there's no such thing as passive income, because there's always got to be active in some way to get it.
Yeah, well, if people think real estate, I mean, it's qualified or quantified by the IRS as passive, but by no means is it passive. Even though people say, "Oh, well, you hire a property manager," yeah, but you still have to hire them and manage them. You still have to add it to your tax returns. You can have your accountant do it, but it's definitely not passive. But with all the new technology and automation, you can make it better than it was, 40 years ago for sure.
That's amazing. All right, so let's get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation. So what is your specialty, and what are you trying to help people as far as in real estate? Because you've done real estate for so long, but now you kind of pivoted into this new space, not necessarily new space, but the space where you've really honed in on what you're doing now.
Well, it is kind of new space, because when my father had no idea or never taught me that you could have an IRA, buy real estate, lend money, buy into private funds, etc. The only thing we knew about IRAs and 401ks was stocks, bonds, and municipal funds, So I actually found out about self-directed IRAs in the late 90s after my father died, because I actually borrowed money from an IRA. And then I said, well, this is really cool. This is better than working, after I talked to the guy that did it. And it was very interesting. So I pursued it, and I found out that with a Roth IRA, I could actually have tax-free income for my life, and at the time for the rest of my kids' life. They since did away with that rule, and it's, the Roth IRA, or all IRAs, will be distributed 10 years after you die. But it was it was a great way to make tax-free income, and I love it still to this day. I don't have to worry about it. My tax returns are a lot simpler. So I just want to make sure everybody knows about those things, because only the wealthy were doing them between, the late 70s and, I would say, maybe 2005, 2010 is when you started finding out more information on them. So
it's information. It's not necessarily misinformation, but it's information that's not readily available.
No, it's not. And I mean the brokerages houses, would tell you that it was, it's illegal, it's risky, and it's hard to do, and there's a lot of rules. Sure, it's tied up. There are IRS rules, but we're here to help you with them, and so is your accountant. Is it risky? I mean, is the stock market risky? There's a lot of people tell you it is today too. Is real estate risky? Yes, it is. There's people lose their jobs. You can get bad tenants that can ruin your places and not pay rent. So everything has some
inherent risk.
Right, inherent risk. But doing self-directed IRA and getting tax-free income, if you're already in real estate, there's really nothing better than that. So I don't think it's risky at all, because I grew up around real estate, and I'm not that very good in the stock market. And I've read books on the stock market. I've bought that. You're probably too young to remember it, but there used to be ads coming on at 3 o'clock in the morning, where you buy this software program and it tells you, red, yellow, and green, get ready to buy, get ready to sell, buy, and I wasn't any good at that. I read a book on blackjack, and I can go to Atlantic City and make more with that information than I can with all the books and software I bought on the stock market.
No, there's the stock market. It's it's like everything. It's one of those things. There's a learning curve to it, and not everybody's going to understand it as well as other people. So if other people find something with it, they might have picked it up or learned the strategies a lot quicker. So it might not just be the thing for you.
This is for people, if you do the stock market, that's great. But if you want to diversify into other things, I think you need to have a self-directed IRA company. And we don't sell anything. All we do is the paperwork. If somebody's going to buy real estate, they find a piece of real estate. Some people will buy the house next door or an apartment in town or an office building or raw land out in the country. So they can buy whatever they want. We don't sell any of that. We just do the paperwork so that the IRS accepts it and it's being reported properly. So, I don't want people to get the misconception that we're selling real estate or any of that. You'll never see that from us. And other people will lend money on the real estate that other people are buying and turn their IRAs into mini banks. And we don't put lenders and borrowers together or any of that. When we say self-directed, we mean you direct the money where you want it. But to me, it's the only way you can get true diversification, because you're old enough to see the market, and a lot of times the market goes down and 95% of the stocks go down with it, right?
Yeah.
And then when the tide rises, 95% of the stocks rise with it. So
one thing I really want to touch on is like the amplification and power of an IRA, because I think a lot of people don't understand that as what that really means. So since you don't pay taxes on it, you don't have to pay capital gains. You can really amplify and multiply your money a lot quicker because you don't have to pay taxes on it, right?
Well, yeah, there's a couple types of IRAs, right? There's what I call the traditional IRA, and which is tax deferred, and the tax-free IRA, which is the Roth. And they have these same components in 401ks, but the difference is when you put money into a traditional IRA, you get a tax break that year. So let's say you put in $5,000 and you're in 40% tax bracket, you're going to save $2,000 on your taxes. And that's why a lot of people do it, because they go to their accountant and the accountant says, well, you owe $4,000, but if you make a contribution to your IRA of $5,000, then you'll only pay $2,000 to the government, and you'll have $5,000 in your basically savings account that's earning, tax deferred income. And the difference between that and the Roth IRA is you'd still pay the $4,000 in taxes, and you'd put $5,000 into your IRA, but everything that $5,000 makes will be tax-free forever when you pull it out. And that's where I think people should be working towards, because I do think taxes are going to go up in the future. So pay your taxes today, and then everything you earn going forward will be tax-free. And you can do that in a 401k. You can even do it in educational savings accounts if you've got kids, I heard you say, Daniel. And, you can use that money almost right away. So every rent comes in, you won't pay tax on it, and you can pay your child's education expenses, whether it's in kindergarten to, postgraduate school up till they're 30 years old. So, and health savings accounts, right? So you can cover your retirement, your health, and your educational costs with some of these plans. And if you're already doing real estate, it makes complete sense to start doing it now.
So you can use it towards, and is that different types of IRAs, or you can use that towards health benefits, towards child care and child education? Is that different?
Yeah. It's different types of accounts, right? Educational savings account is obviously for the education. Health savings account is specifically for health care, and then traditional IRAs and Roth IRAs are for retirement. So think of it that way. And people say, well, which one should I have? I said, all of them. Yeah, as many as you can, and a 401k, right? Get as many of those plans as you can, because the government is basically rewarding you for saving for your retirement. Now, your next question is, do you want it to be tax deferred or tax free? And at a young age, I would say put it in the tax free, because your tax rate is very low. When you get my age and your kids are all out and your deductions are all gone, you're paying a higher tax on the money that you make. So that at that point, I want to have everything in a Roth IRA.
That's amazing. I like the subject because it shows the the amplification of money if you do it the right way. And
sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you look at Mitt Romney, when he ran, they showed his $100 million IRA. And I don't know if you remember last year, October, November, they were talking about Peter Thiel's $1 billion Roth IRA, right? And a lot of people were upset about it, but he just took the rules and made them work for him. He makes $1 billion on the outside. Why not make $1 billion in his IRA? So, I mean, you see the real wealthy do it, but let me tell you, I think there's probably 60% of Americans are looking at tax advantage plans such as IRAs, 401ks, et cetera.
No, I think it's a good strategy. I've heard a lot about this because if you do something like wholesaling real estate, you're using a small amount of money as far as like contracting properties, and then they'll put all that money they might make for wholesaling a property into the Roth IRA to amplify it and just snowball that money into a large sum tax free over a short amount of time, and they're just building that Roth IRA.
Sure, in your head, you want to put your most safe and most, the one with the highest ROI in your Roth. And if you're running out of time, I always try to keep my Roth tax-deferred IRA invested, and then thirdly, my own discretionary cash, because discretionary cash is going to get taxed, right away. My traditional IRA isn't going to get taxed till I'm 72 or I take it out, and my Roth IRA is never getting taxed. So, I mean, it's just like, the same philosophy as if you're paying off debt, you want to pay off the debt with the highest interest rate, right? Most people are paying off credit cards versus, house payments.
Yeah, 100%. So what's the process? Like if I were to go get a IRA created today, what's the time frame? Is it like a 30-day, 90-day, 120-day process, or tomorrow? Is it like instantaneous?
Well, I mean, we can open up your account in the same day, basically, and you can fund it in the same day. We have to give you 5 or 7 days by law to think about it. So to make sure that we didn't talk you into it and you think that it's a bad deal. So we give you 7 days to let it rest there, and then you can invest.
Awesome. So it's 1 day contract creation, 7-day utilization period, essentially.
Yeah. So you got to wait 7 days when you first open it to make sure that, I forget what they call it, but you weren't pressured into opening up the account.
So one thing I really want to cover on this is that there's inherent risk, because technically, since you are self-directing your IRA, you have to make sure you self-direct it properly. And I'm sure that's one of the things you kind of cover when you're creating this account. Like, hey, this could hurt.
Well, it's all on you anyway. I mean, if you give your money to a fund, then the fund manager is doing it, right? And then your risk is basically based on what that fund manager does. If you have your account with Schwab, or your IRA with Schwab or Vanguard or Merrill Lynch or whoever else, TD Ameritrade, and you're picking the stocks, that's the same risk that you're taking on, right? But I'll tell you right now, I don't think anybody watches your money as well as you do.
Yeah,
right?
100%.
And and if I had to bet on somebody making the money, I would bet on you making it more than a fund manager making it for you. I mean, every once in a while you luck out, but not by my books.
No, it's a fund manager. They're paid to win and they're paid to lose. Either way, they get paid.
Oh yeah. That's what people say. Is the stock market risky? I said, not to the stockbroker.
Yeah, he's always
Right?
paid no matter what.
Right. He gets paid either way. Exactly. They invest your money and you take all the risk, but they get paid either way.
Yeah, I've learned a lot about the stock market, and it's crazy to me how that worked. And I'm like, when I heard about that, I'm like, what? This is like they get paid to lose too? Like, this is insane.
Yeah, but not as much.
Not as much, but they still get paid either way. I mean, if I were to get paid to do my job or not, I probably would try and do my job. But if I messed up, I wouldn't care.
Well, it's a little bit like It's a little bit like the weatherman. He gets paid whether he's right or wrong.
Exactly. That's a good analogy. The weatherman.
Yeah.
Oh man, the weatherman. Man, okay. That's a whole other topic, because I think the weatherman that was like, oh, it's gonna be nice and sunny today, and you start driving to work and it starts pouring down rain. I'm like,
Exactly.
that's funny.
You don't even get mad at him anymore. You just go, oh, well.
He's the weatherman.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about self-directed is unlimited based on, I think you mentioned this earlier. I don't know if you mentioned it on this call already, but buying gold, buying assets, buying real estate, investing that into property. You said land, I think a little earlier, houses, and can you lend it out like a bank as well to get?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who take their IRAs and they'll lend to other IRAs, or they'll lend to friends, right? Or they'll lend to other people that need money to buy a car. So yeah, they basically turn their IRA into a mini bank, I call it. I've seen them lend money on, one of the primary ones is lending money to a rehabber, because banks pretty much shut construction loans down. So they'll pay, 10 or 12% for 6 months while they fix up a place. And then refinance it, now that it's in pristine condition, and the bank, appraises it and then gives them their money and then pay you back, So people find a way to get it done, and that's one of the ways they choose to do it.
So I really want to cover the importance of this too, because why would people want to invest in an IRA versus putting it in a bank? I know this doesn't pay taxes, but like, in what way can somebody? I know this answer the question. I'm trying to answer a difficult question for some of my listeners. It's one of those things. What is the benefit of them utilizing their IRA 100%? Because they might not be able to use that money till they're 72, or they have to use it in like one of these like active accounts where they can use it for childcare. Can they disperse money into other IRA accounts based off of them using money in certain accounts, or if they use it for that specific account, does it have the money they earn from that have to go back in that specific account?
No, that's a great question. A lot of people will have IRAs, and let's say they just retired from their company. When they retire from their company, they might roll their 401k into an IRA, and they might have a couple $100,000 in there, but they say, hey, I only want to use, 50 or 100,000. So I'm going to transfer 100,000 from my Vanguard account or my TD account over to this self-directed account to lend to this rehabber at 12%. And I'll have the house as security. So they'll put the 100,000 over, they'll transfer it to Camaplan's IRA account in their name, and then they'll make a loan on it. Let's say that loan goes for, 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, if they don't have somebody else to loan it to, they can bring it back and put it back into the Vanguard account. Or if they don't like where the Vanguard account is going, or the market's in a free fall, maybe they pull it out and invest it in a different investment, or they just hold it in cash. And one of the things is, when your money is sitting with us, we don't charge you any fees until you do a deal. So if you're sitting in cash, then that's you're not getting any charges. And I don't think there's any other companies out there, but I don't want you rushing to do a deal. I want the money there. I don't, because everybody else says, well, I put, my money in there and they charged me $300 and I didn't do anything, or $500. So we just say, hey, we're not going to we're not going to charge. Let the people do their due diligence. Don't rush them into a deal, because I hate to be rushed. That's one of the reasons I don't like 1031s. I'm on a timeline. I got to buy based on their schedule. The other thing that I learned, 15 years ago was, if I have money in a savings account per se at the bank, $5,000 or $10,000 for a rainy day, I put that into a Roth, because I don't, even those days, you're getting 5 or 6% in the bank, but I wouldn't pay taxes on it. But more important than that was, when you have money in an IRA or a 401k, it is protected from creditors. So if you have a savings bank there and you get sued for one of your properties or for any other reason, that money is available to either to your attorney to take or for the creditor to take. If it's in an IRA, it's not. And if it's in a Roth IRA, all your contributions can come out of a Roth IRA without any penalties. So it was just free asset protection was the way I looked at it. And I haven't had a savings account since. I'll just open up another IRA and put money in there if I need it for a rainy day.
Yeah, that is huge. I didn't know that the creditors and anybody trying to sue you can't take that. That's huge.
Well, that's one of the reasons you want to have CamaPlan on your side, right? CamaPlan self-directed IRAs, because that's our business. We're good at it. We use it. My sister and I founded it, 20 years ago, and we're investors, and we set it up for investors. The fees are set up how we would like it. You get paid for what we do, and we think it's fair. And that's how we ended up using that philosophy, setting it up. And that's the way we do our business today.
I like it a lot. No, I have another question. So now that you've been doing real estate for so long, are your kids in real estate as well?
Well, like I told you earlier, my grandparents were in it. My mom and dad were in it. I mean, I used to sit at the table and listen to them argue. My mom was one of these people that wanted to know each of the tenants, trade cookies, etc. And my dad was, I don't want to see them. I don't want to run into them at the grocery store, etc., because they take up my time. So I had to listen to that, and I can see both sides of it. But yes, I have real estate, both commercial and residential, and my kids are in it. My kids do flips, and they buy and hold, and they rent. So my one that does the flips kind of taught me some stuff. He says, Dad, real estate's good. I agree. But when the market's going good and it's high, that's when you should sell. And when it's low, you should buy. And I said, yeah, but he said, you hold through the high and the lows and just collect the rent. I said, yeah, because if I sell, then I got to go buy something else, and that becomes work. But he says, but you can make so much more, So we talk about that. He makes $50,000 on a flip or $100,000 on a flip, and he says, you're getting, $2,500 a month. How long does that take you to catch up to me, which I just did, a flip in a year?
Yeah. There's a lot of ways to make money in real estate, and there's no wrong way to do it if you're making money.
No, people ask me all the time, what's the best way to do it? And I said, the one that's most comfortable to you, and it will work its way out. I mean, flips to me is a lot of work. And as soon as you flip it and you get rid of it, you got to start again to make more money. But, maybe it was when I was, 10 years old, opening up the post office box and bringing in the checks, maybe that, imprinted on my brain, and that's the way I am. But, I listen to my kids. I learn a couple new things. I think they've got a lot easier with a lot more of the technology, but I think there's a lot of people out there, a lot more people are involved in it as a result of that as well. So the competition is tighter.
Yeah. I tell people, there's no wrong way to do it. Just got to find somebody that it's going to work for you, and that just work that way for a while until you expand your knowledge base to do other things. But don't overwhelm yourself either by doing too much. Well,
I mean, I couldn't believe it when I felt I could put real estate into an IRA, pay $300 a year and have it all tax free, and I don't have to do reporting to the IRS on it. right? I saved that $300 from my accountant,
Yeah.
I don't have to pay to him. So I'm basically getting tax-free income for free.
That's it. So I appreciate you coming on, man. I like doing these because I like learning from the guests, and I definitely learned some stuff today that I will implement, and I hope my audience does as well, because like I said, there's a lot of information out there. It's just getting it from the right resources is always the key.
Yep. Just have them go to camaplan.com and we'll help them if they've got any other questions. We can set up a private consultation for them and their advisors. Same thing for you, for free, and we'll get all your questions answered, because we don't want anybody doing this without doing their due diligence and understanding it. So bring your accountants, your lawyers, your advisors, and get all the questions answered at once. Like I said, we've been doing this for 20 years, and most of the time we're not stumped by new questions.
You've done heard them all.
Pretty much, yep.
Well, there you go. www.camaplan.com. Go check it out. We appreciate you coming on. I hope you got some value today from this episode. Please check us out on all platforms, and we appreciate your time. We hope to see you again in the future. Maybe we'll have you on again, but I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, Carl. You have a great day, all right?
Thank you, Daniel. Really appreciate it. You have one as well.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.1listguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.